Leaders are necessary to start, but institutions are necessary to sustain. Any big enterprise is never started by an institution. Any new enterprise is started by a leader, but it will be sustained by an institution. So this is the importance of a leader and institution.
Thanks for joining us for Building Pakistan, a conversation with Pakistan's beloved institution builders to explore how they've built and really continue to build this young country. I'm Benji Williams from Amal Academy, and in today's conversation, we get to meet with Dr. Amjad Saqib, who's the founder and CEO of Akhuwat, Pakistan's largest Islamic microfinance institution. What I love about Dr. Saab and Akhuwat is that they are really one of the few social enterprises who have managed to cross the chasm and reach incredible scale, becoming really a North Star for many of us in the social sector. Currently, they're working with over 5,000 employees to reach over 2.5 million households across 700 branches in just the past 16 years. And today we're going to dig into how they've done that, and also talk about phase 2 of Akhuwat, which is the really exciting work that they're doing in education through Akhuwat University, Akhuwat College, over 250 schools that they've adopted, and a lot more. Dr. Amjad Saqib is also not a typical entrepreneur in that he has a background as a civil servant officer. And so we're also going to try and understand more about what makes Dr. Amjad Saqib Dr. Amjad Saqib, some of his spiritual beliefs, some of his practices and his routines, and really the inspiration behind his work and his journey. So just starting off, I think most of our listeners would have a good idea about Akhuwat and what Akhuwat does, but probably not so much into the details of how Akhuwat has been able to scale and what have been the details of the journey, you can say. And so Akhuwat started in 2001, and the objective, of course, was to provide interest-free microfinance loans to the poor in order to help enhance their quality of life. And I just heard recently that it took 10 years to reach 1 billion Pakistani rupees in terms of the loans dispersed. And now every single month, you're dispersing about 1.3 billion, which is mind-boggling and incredible. And I think there's this incredible quote that you have from an interview you gave at Georgetown University. And you said that the goal should be to develop a single system of education so that every Pakistani child should have the access to reach his or her full potential through education. No doubt it will be an arduous and painful process because change is always painful. It will also take a long time, as injustices bred over centuries cannot be removed in a short span of time. And I think this is such an incredible vision and something very similar to what we're aspiring for at Amal Academy and what we think the country needs. And yet, it's arguably very different than the programs and services that Akhuwat has provided over the last 16 years. And so I think one question for entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs is, how do you stay focused on one thing for how long? In other words, how did you decide that it was the right time to go into education if this was one of the visions that you had since, back in your University of Virginia days? And I know you have been a consultant for many years in education as well. So it must have been a temptation to get into education earlier. How did you decide not to get into it, and when did you decide was the right time to get into it?
Let me tell you that the real success in life is being focused. You must be focused. There are many things to do in life, but you can't do everything. One of the reasons of success of Akhuwat is that we remained focused. When we achieved a small degree of success, many people came to us that now you should start a hospital, now you should start an education institution, now you should work for human rights, now you should work for environment, Now you should work for, training, skills, capacity, many other areas. All these areas help in poverty alleviation.
Right.
But we remained focused. We said no. We will do only that thing. We will only choose that path which has not been, traveled. This is our niche. Interest-free microfinance, nobody giving. So this is our moment of glory. This is how we can excel. So despite many temptations, pressures, and people giving money that do this, we give you money, but we remain focused. So this is one best thing I have learned in life, that you must be focused. You must remain focused.
So you've made.
But let me explain.
Please.
But gradually, we realize that the poverty alleviation which we are doing through microfinance is just like, extinguishing fire. It's just like an emergency treatment. You are giving somebody 20, 30,000, 40,000 rupees, helping him to start a business, earning something at the end of the day, and, just living. So this is an emergency treatment. You're just extinguishing fire. But ultimate salvation of a nation lies in education. So if you really want to alleviate poverty, then you will have to, mobilize people from the, lower echelons of society to the top level, and the vehicle for that is only education. So this, all this previous experience shapes your future road, future, map and future directions. So while working with Akhuwat, it is an organically improving thing. It is something, sociological and organic. It was an action research as well. And we were learning, doing. So in the meantime, I realized that this is the emergency treatment which we are doing. And after 12, 13, 14 years, I thought that maybe financial inclusion becomes irrelevant after 30, 40, 50, 60 years. This slogan, this strategy for poverty alleviation. But something will never be irrelevant is education. Oxford will always be Oxford. Cambridge will, since 700 years, it is building civilization. It is producing leaders. It's, making this world beautiful. The people coming out of there. So, for me, education and microfinance is the ultimate goal converges, that this brings emergency treatment and this is the permanent salvation. This is another thing, why we, focused our attention towards this university, that people started asking me, what is your succession plan in Akhuwat? So I was extremely, started thinking that maybe my son never likes to join hands with me. Maybe the sons or daughters of our other board members don't like to join Akhuwat. So what is the succession plan? Where will we find those committed, those highly, motivated people believing in this cause? So we thought we should, build an institution where we should pick extremely disadvantaged children, give them best education, and at the same time train them according to the virtues and values and traditions of Akhuwat. So there are many different,
It's incredible vision and momentum already in such a few short years in the education space. And what I'm really intrigued by and inspired by is this focus that Akhuwat, for the first, I guess it must be 11 or 12 years, was just focused on microfinance. And so I'm wondering about the geographical expansion as well, and the role that has played in Akhuwat's journey. Because for us and I think others, there's always a temptation to go to other cities and other provinces and potentially even other countries. And so I know that Akhuwat was in Lahore originally, and then very quickly kind of expanded into other cities. Do you feel that was a part of the strategy, that was necessary, that was helpful in terms of building a nationwide, or I guess first a Punjab-wide and then nationwide institution? Do you feel you expanded into other cities too quickly? What was the thought process for like the first city that you expanded into outside of Lahore?
Benji, the first thing, we remained focused 3-4 years only in Lahore. Those were extremely formative days. We were learning, we were building, we were, again learning, we were faltering, we were rising, we were documenting. As I mentioned, it was an action research. We were researching, I was very open to the ideas throughout the world. I visited Bangladesh. I learned from many other microfinancing institutions, from South American institutions. We did a lot of international research, and then we, perfected the model first. It's a very different kind of a model. So when we perfected the model, then we started going to the next cities.
What was the first city that you?
That was in Faisalabad. Okay. We started.
With Abu Bakr and the
that was my village.
Okay.
My village. I brought it to my village. My father said that you are doing so many good things. Why don't you start there? So we started second in Dijkot, my village. Then we went to Sargodha and then went to other places. So this why was, we are expanding. Then we started doing in all 4 provinces, and now we are the in microfinance, both conventional and Islamic. We are the biggest one in Pakistan, both geographically, in terms of market share, in terms of active loans.
Can I ask what it was like when you expanded to Faisalabad? What did you learn about the model? Was it really challenging compared to in Lahore? And then you went Faisalabad to Sargodha. For example, Amal, we expanded to Faisalabad last year, and there are a lot of challenges, and we're surprised at the differences in even a city that's only 2 hours away. And so I'm wondering, is that unique to us, or did you have a lot of learning and challenges that you faced? And then was it the same going Faisalabad to Sargodha, where there are a little less challenges, and then Sargodha to the next city where there are a little less challenges?
Absolutely. There were some challenges, something new in every city. Every city where we went, people said, "Oh, Lahore, you live in Lahore, so that is the reason that you are achieving 100% recovery percentage. People in our city, you will never find that success. Everywhere, 100% recovery. We are working in 400 cities of Pakistan, all provinces, and everywhere our recovery percentage is 99.9. So that proves my, assumption that people are trustworthy and don't believe in charity, provided you give them respect, you engage them on some principles, you trust them, and you are willing to learn from their wisdom. You are not going with the blueprint model. Let the model emerge from the local culture, local traditions and local strengths. So the engagement and dialogue is extremely important. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a very religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. So I firmly believe that if you are working with all sincerity to serve the people of God, God will help you. We got so much support from every city gradually. The like-minded people came. They started working for us on volunteer basis. Even our borrowers, they were so inspired by the vision that they became our volunteers, they became our supporters. And microfinance gradually became just a means to achieve an end. The end became the bond of solidarity and building a society. So when we transfer, the challenge is to transfer the vision. So if you are able to transfer the vision in your employees and in your borrowers, then they become part of the ecosystem. They become the part of the whole movement. They become part of the whole organization.
So wanted to ask about this idea of transfer specifically with the government, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs realize that if you want to achieve the change the country needs, to some extent you might have to work with the government because they have that scale and that scope. And so you guys, Akhuwat, started working with the government formally, at least to my knowledge, in 2012. And at that point, it really kind of scaled up what Akhuwat was already doing quite impactfully. And I wanted to ask, like, what enabled or what has enabled you to work with the government in a way that perhaps other organizations have struggled to do? What enabled you at that point in 2012 to be ready to work with the government?
In 10 years, we disbursed 1 billion rupees. When I went to the Chief Minister and told him that I have, with this help of all my friends, we have been able to bring a big change, because at that time, even at that time, it was a big experience that a civil society organization without any help reaching 100,000 people. So I told him that we have done such a big thing. So he smiled, and then he said that, Dr. Saab, you have a bigger potential. Only 100,000 in 10 years. So then I asked him that I can obviously go for a bigger scale, but if you allow us to work with the state, if you give us resources, we bring this model. You give resource, we bring passion. You give resource and we bring management capacity and leadership and the spirit and the principles and all the team, all the learnings. So he gave us plenty of money, and for 1 year, he was very cautious. He said that we will examine what was happening after 1 year. And then the results which he received after 1 year was mind-boggling. So then his trust, increased manifold. Our trust in state increased manifold. One thing I asked the Chief Minister, which he honored, I truly appreciate him for that. I told him that we will be successful only if you don't tinker with our model. Let it be purely pro-poor and non-political. We believe in non-discrimination. So, and number one. Number two, nobody should be allowed to, interfere in our operations. So if you allow us full autonomy and independence in these two things, inshallah, I am sure that this will never fail. And believe you me that we are working with government since last 7 years, and not a single, interference in our affairs. Who will be giving loan? Who will be recruited? Things like that. So public-private partnership is extremely important. Small is beautiful, but large is necessary. You must have a big heart. For a partnership, you don't need a big intellect. For a partnership, you need a big heart. You must be ready to accommodate, to listen, to manage the conflict, to give somebody due respect. Another thing which I learned is that always give credit to others. Especially in our society, if you are willing to give even your credit to others, then you are successful.
The big heart is definitely necessary, and yet I also want to explore the role or importance of the systems that you had built leading up into that point, because 100,000 is not a small number. You guys have, I think, reached around 2 million households now, which is incredible. But even 100,000 is also incredible. And to do that in 10 years is incredible. And so it must be dependent on some systems, the 4 principles which you said earlier, and a very unique model, which I feel and I have the sense that maybe we don't always think in terms of systems as entrepreneurs. And so I'm wondering what lessons you might have learned about building those systems. Did you start with those immediately? Did they come after
No.
5 or 6
It was
years?
5, 6, 7 years took us to build the system. Let me say that leaders are necessary to start, but institutions are necessary to sustain. Any big enterprise is never started by an institution. Any new enterprise is started by a leader. But it will be sustained by an institution. So this is the importance of a leader and institution. Both are needed. If this miracle is not handed over to an institution, if your success is not handed over to an institution, it is not brought within the parameters or the domain of institutional framework, you will lose it. You will be remembered as a good person who did something miraculous, something wonderful, something good for the people. But real challenge is sustainability. Real challenge is longevity. How your legacy will be, carried forward. So this is extremely important. We built institutions, we built systems, procedures, manuals, MIS, technology, quality human resource, training them, and then setting an example. Setting personal example is extremely important.
One of the things, I want to get back to this idea of management and leadership and development of your team. But I wanted to first ask a question just about the model itself, and especially the focus on efficiency, which you had sort of alluded to before, which is you're operating in mosque, which helps bring the cost down, and there's no ACs and people are sitting on the floor, and there's not a lot of cars and all of these things. And I think one of the underlying principles, is efficiency and how to bring the cost down to the most minimal level. I read somewhere, I think from Malcolm Harper, that the goal was initially to have the cost be about 5% of a loan dispersed. Operating costs would be about 5% of that. And I read that I think it's around 9% right now. And so I was just wondering, and compared to global standards, I think it's 20 plus, even 30% or above. And so what role do you think, we often talk about revenue and income, and that's very important. But I think that's often, ironically, at the expense of the expense side. We don't focus on the costs so much. What was your focus in the first few years on this, and what role did that play?
The lesson I learned was that there are two ways of achieving financial sustainability. One is increase your revenue. In our case, it is the donation. Increase your donation. And the other is reduce your cost. There is no other way. If you are stick to these two principles, you will attain sustainability. We know how to enhance the donation base, but we don't know or don't believe in reducing cost, because that comes at personal expense. You have to sacrifice. So to reduce cost, I searched a lot. How can I reduce cost? 5 or 6 ideas came to my mind. First of all, using the religious infrastructure, that will reduce cost. Number 1, hiring lowly qualified human resource, but extremely motivated at the same time. If I hire a LUMS graduate, I will have to give him a high salary. If I hire a person who is not as educated, but who is more motivated and need of a salary because of his poverty, and if I spend some time in telling him my vision and train him for this particular business, so that is a better bet, and it has proved in 17 years. So number 3, when we started Akhuwat, we had no money at all. We had no office at all. We just hired a one room in a kachi basti, in a slum area. we had no chair, we had no table. So I requested my mother, will you give me your carpet? She gave me her carpet and I put it on the floor and we started sitting there. And still after 17 years, I sit on the floor. My senior managers sit on the floor. And this is because we believe that adherence or sticking to tradition is extremely important. We will never forget how we started our journey if we continue to sit on floor. But that was also a strategy to reduce cost. And then number 4, we said that it is a banker on a bike game. Why should we don't need cars and big transport to reach our poor. So we relied on bicycles and motorbikes. And then one of the most important principles is volunteerism. So it's a combination of necessary compensation and volunteers. We inspired professionals, the accountants, the finance managers, the HR experts, that please give us 1 day, 2 day, 3 day in a month or in a week. So this combination of volunteerism and necessary compensation. So we brought it down, and then Alhamdulillah, we are achieving it around 7%, 8%. It is in fact 13 or 14%, but actual physical financial expense is 7 to 8% only. Remaining 5-6% is the volunteer. If you transfer that volunteer time in money, and it may become 13-14%. But actual the financial expense is around 7-8%. It becomes more when we are growing, when we are opening new branches, when we are going to the far-flung area. For example, working in FATA is a challenge. It is extremely expensive. Working in Gilgit-Baltistan is extremely expensive. But still, the overall cost remains minimum. And mind you, this includes all. This is not only operational expense. The building of infrastructure, buying of computers, and developing the systems, and then manuals, and the marketing, everything inclusive, the cost is around 7-8%. And we are very, very strict on it. And another thing of financial sustainability, that we defined an optimal workload. That what workload should be optimal for an employee. Generally, around 150 loans are given by one loan officer, less than that. But we took it to around 300. So that means our employee is twice working and giving the same results.
And in terms of revenue streams, I haven't actually looked at the financial annual document, but the donations is roughly what percent versus, I guess you have the fees, some small fees.
The donation from the borrowers, you mean?
Yeah, donations from borrowers or from the broader community.
Off the cuff, I can't say anything, but it's substantial amount. It's substantial amount, and I think we're able to cover, if we allocate the donation from the borrowers and the 100 to 200 rupees application fee from the borrower to our overall expense, I think it's 30 to 40%.
Okay. And I guess I would love to talk now a little bit more about the management side, because obviously that's a huge part of building a system, is the people that are in place. And like you said, able to be that institution, essentially. It's no longer dependent on any one leader. And every organization says they invest a lot in training, they invest in a lot in selecting the right people. And to a certain extent, I believe that's true. And yet somehow some organizations have very different results than other organizations. And so I'm wondering, when you look back, or even at where Akhuwat is right now, what do you feel is different? Or I guess to put it another way, how are you able to develop and instill those skills so that you have an organization that's always learning, that's always improving, that feels the responsibility that they have each and every day across 5,000 people? I mean, it's easy to imagine across 10 or maybe 20, but once you start getting to even 30 or 40, I feel like what worked before no longer works anymore.
You know, Benji, it's very, very interesting to talk about human resource in Akhuwat. It's a long story. This is the real strength of Akhuwat. And let me say, Akhuwat's human resource is absolutely unique and different. You cannot compare it with any other HR model. What I speak here in Lahore, exactly the same terminology, same words are spoken in Hunza, same words are spoken in Leari, same language is spoken in Quetta, same language is spoken in South Waziristan.
How does that happen?
So this is my challenge is, as a teacher leader, is to teach them and to lead them. Same, they are at the same frequency, they are at the, even the selection of words is the same. It is the same McDonald which is, sold in Peking and at Washington DC. Akhuwat is a mission, Akhuwat is a movement, and Akhuwat is an institution. It has the flexibility and fluidity of a movement, but it has the rigidity of an institution as well. Most of my time now is vested on arranging and delivering, training sessions to my staff. I have trained, I can take pride in it, that out of these 5,000 people, I have met everybody. There is no CEO who can claim that he has met his all 5,000 employees. I have met them. I have spent time with them. I have given them 2 to 3 to 4 hours training sessions. Because I cannot satisfy myself if I not transferring directly what is my vision, what is my board's vision. So this personal relationship, every 5,000, out of 5,000, every employee is just one phone message away from me. Everybody has my phone number. In fact, my phone number is written on our website. My phone number is written on every 700 offices. Every borrower can send me a message. So this personal relationship, leadership is, working directly with the employees at the lowest level. If there is a gap, if there is something, the more distance increases, the more message, gets weaker. And this personal interaction and this gelling together, working together like a team, this creates magic. This inspires people. So this is my biggest challenge, that how I continuously interact with. There are certain disappointments every day, but these disappointments inspire me to go. Whenever I feel myself weaker, I start meeting borrowers and my lowest employees. Believe you me, I get tremendous strength, and I'm, extremely top of the world.
I want to come back to that at some point, but quickly I want to ask if there has been any moment where you have felt the culture in the organization wasn't exactly where you wanted it to be. And
every day, even now.
What do you do? I mean, can you share a moment with us and what you did during that moment in order to
every day,
adjust it?
I have set the bar very high. I get 1 or 2 complaints in a week or in a day that our staff has not behaved in the best possible way. Generally speaking, there is no complaint. But still, the level of their respect to the borrower is not the same as I want. Because Akhuwat is all about sacrifice, respect, accommodation. A poor man starts, his journey from his home, and then thinks, then, there is rain, he's walking on foot, and, so many problems. He comes to the office with a hope. And he has not come there on his own. Somebody has sent him there. I believe that a person, if he comes to Akhuwat's office, somebody has designed, somebody has sent him. And I want that he should be treated like a VIP, VVIP. If Prime Minister of Pakistan sends somebody to my office with a chit that he is known to him and he wants him to be helped, what will I do? I will stand, and then I will receive him, then I will greet him, and then I will do everything possible. But that poor man is coming to us with a letter from Allah Almighty. He has sent him to us. He is watching us. He is testing us. So if we don't give him that VVIP protocol, he should be given a better VVIP protocol as compared to somebody sent by the Prime Minister. So this is in very simple words, we teach our staff that any poor man entering a Akhuwat office is sent by God, and he is testing you, that how compassionate you are, how true you are to the philosophy of your institution. Are you making just lofty claims? Are you really believe in it? So this is the kind of culture I want to have in office. Sometimes I'm not as polite or as compassionate. I'm a human being. So my team, whole 5,000 people. So the bar is very high, and we are moving in a right direction. And we Alhamdulillah, if you go and meet our borrowers, you will find them praising these people.
So you mentioned it's not always exactly as you want it, and sometimes that's discouraging.
It's not discouraging.
How do you find the balance, I guess, between the maybe frustration you might feel?
Absolutely no frustration.
Well,
it is not discouraging, it is not frustrating, but the point is, it's a continuous struggle to do better. It is continuous struggle to achieve excellence.
So if you see one of your team members who's not exactly giving the VVIP treatment, do you feel a little frustrated? Do you feel disappointed?
I feel that there is more space for me to intervene. More space for the higher management to work on him. There is more challenge for us. Because, I know our society, we have produced very poor professionals. I have worked in many NGOs, I have worked in government department, and I know that my staff is working much better than them. That is a sense of satisfaction for me. But my challenge is to keep on improving. Whenever I get a complaint that I have been ill-treated, so first of all, I blame myself.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, the question I want to ask, because I feel many entrepreneurs have that same internal reflection, and whether it's a disappointment or a frustration or just the aspiration to be better in yourself internally, it doesn't feel like you're reaching your full potential or you're realizing what society needs of you. And so I guess that's a little bit of my question.
You're right.
Is how to manage that internal tension that you might feel when you see your team is not exactly where you want them to be. And
Benji, this gives me inspiration. You have never, before working in Akhuwat, I was a different kind of a man. I had little patience. I was, sometimes rude. But working in Akhuwat has totally transformed. It's a great spiritual experience. I have learned patience. I have learned to remain happy. I have learned to remain contented. I have learned to face defeat. I have learned to face disappointments. all these things don't give me any kind of frustration. Before coming to here, to Akhuwat, or in the initial years, I used to be frustrated. The results are not coming. But now, gradually, I have learned the biggest lesson of my life. I will not be judged on the outcome. I will be judged on the input. God will not ask me, what is the result of your effort? God will ask me, what is your effort? Show me. So I believe in giving the best. I believe in giving 24 hours. What results it brings, that doesn't bother me. The result, I evaluate. I see the impact. I see the outcome. I see the output. But only for course correction. If something is not working, then I will alter and find a different way. But I never evaluate myself on the ultimate outcome, because this is not my, this is God's, this is divine. If He doesn't want to change the world, I cannot. But I'm here to make my best effort to change the world. The ultimate change, this is God's purview. So I am extremely satisfied when I go to bed. I, look back and see what I have done in these 24 hours or 12 hours. If I made the best effort, I'm satisfied. And when I get up in the morning, I then pray that I spend next 12 hours in the best. I'm answerable of every second of my life. God has given me this great gift of life. Every second, you cannot count in millions and millions and millions of dollars the one moment's price. So He will ask me, where did you spend this one moment? Were you delivering? Were you sharing? Were you taking care of my people? I sent you in this world with a purpose. Did you realize that purpose? What efforts you made to achieve that purpose? What is the result of that purpose, effort? I will never be asked.
I wanted to ask just one or two last questions.
Maybe, Benji, I'm not able to express in English because I have some limitations.
I'm getting it perfectly.
But the point is, if you allow me to tell all these things in Urdu, then I may be more,
I'm already getting it perfectly. So thank you so much for that and dealing with the lack of, my lack of Urdu speaking. So you talk about how you spend your day and each one of your minutes. And I find your professional journey incredible in that you were a civil servant. And then in 2001, you started Akhuwat, but still you were working with the Punjab Rural Support Program for, I think, another 4 years or so, while growing Akhuwat into what it has become. And you're working at Akhuwat basically full-time, but also essentially working full-time as a consultant in order to manage the expenses and have, sustainability for the family, etc. So how do you do that all? What is your routine, essentially, is what I'm curious to know. You must be waking up at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to get all of this done.
Benji, you have not mentioned one thing in it. I'm an author as well.
And an author. And a speaker.
7 books.
And so many other things. And you're finding time to reflect and to write new ideas and to inspire so many people.
And my two books are best-selling books in Urdu. And I think they are critically acclaimed. And, I want to be remembered as an author of some good, pieces. I don't find equivalent word in English. Have you heard the word barakat, barakah?
Is it blessings of
something more than that?
Yeah, but I've heard the word.
Let me explain. if you're sitting in your home and you have a food for 2 or 3 people, suddenly 2 or 3 friends come. So my mother used to tell me and educate me that if you have a food for 3 people and suddenly you get 3 guests, 6 people will come and all 6 people will have that food. The amount will not decrease. Everybody will, alternatively, it should have been sufficient only for 3. But what is it that 6 people took that food and fully, satisfied their appetite? So she used to say that this is barakah. If you selflessly serve somebody, God enhances that thing. This is a spiritual feeling. Physically, that food quantity remains the same, but what is it that instead of 3 people, 6 people? So barakah is not only in food. There is barakah in time as well. I have myself experienced that 24 hours have stretched to 48 hours. In fact, it is 24 hours. But you are working something which you cannot do in 76 hours. The time stretches like universe. Time has different dimensions. God has created time for you and me as 1 minute, but for him it is 1 minute, maybe 1 million years. I cannot explain, this phenomena, but time extends. And if you are doing service to the people, you are working for humanity, you are serving God's people, he stretches the time. And in a limited period of time, you are able to do miracles. Oh, what did Holy Prophet did in 63 years of life? Only after 40 years, he got prophethood. And in 23 years of life. And those 23 years of his struggle, first 10 years were absolutely, in worldly term, insignificant. Real success started coming when he migrated from Makkah to Medina. And more than 100,000 people gathered at the Hajjatul Wida, the last ceremony. So this is barakah. Only in 7 to 10 years, a foundation was laid which changed the whole world. So I believe that this is the barakah, and I do simultaneously many things. Another thing is that I believe in delegation.
Can you share with us what is your daily routine? Because I think, I know it's probably a little embarrassing, but I also think that the details are what we need to know or have an idea of as entrepreneurs so that we have something to work towards.
My routine is, sometimes it's not a very perfect daily routine. In fact, I'm always asking good entrepreneurs that what is your day routine? I sleep little, and my wife, every day when I get up, he says that all during your sleep you have been talking Akhuwat. Believe you me, she says that most of time during your sleep you are talking Akhuwat.
You're also working.
You're also working. So I sleep little. Sometimes I get exhausted because of this little sleep. But one thing I have experienced. Are
you waking up like around Fajr and then after that?
I usually wake up at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And then I work 1 hour, 2 hours. These days my work is not, anything. I just think. What to do, what not to do. where to go, where not to go, and things like that. This is all mental
when you're
exercise.
thinking, or are you writing it down? Is
No,
that helpful, or you're just thinking?
just thinking and writing on my mind that I have to do.
And are you, sorry to get so specific, but are you sitting? Are you like walking around?
No, I'm just laying on my bed, just thinking. And if there's very important something, I write, but usually it doesn't happen. And then I sleep again for half an hour at 6 to 7. Then I get up, then I start working the whole day. Sometimes I wish I could have slept for half an hour as a nap, because that is the practice of Holy Prophet. It rejuvenates you and prepares you for another 7-8 hours. But I get very little opportunity. But I go to bed at 10:30 or 11. But going to bed is just closing your eyes, then again thinking about all these things. And
at what point
the best thing is, let me just say, I enjoy working for Akhuwat. If you enjoy something, then whether you are sleeping, whether you are not sleeping, whether you are awake, this is the one thing. Even if I'm in a deep sleep and you raise me and want to talk about Akhuwat, I will wake up with all my energy. I will be extremely excited. Oh, let's talk about Akhuwat. What can we do? Where should we go? What should we, all those things. So God has been kind that my labor has been converted into a passion. This is my love.
And then one flip side of that is, when you're so passionate, there's also the risk of the burnout. And I think many entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, feel this.
Benji, you burn out when you work. You don't burn out when you love. This is not a. I'm sure you have experienced of love affair. Every time you're feeling, when you go before your beloved, you feel, that this is the best moment I'm spending in my life. An intense love affair. This is the best time. Sometimes I fear that I will be dying so early, but I love this thing so much.
But even relationships are difficult. You have some very low moments in those, and it's exhausting as well, because you're so passionate about it. So my question is how to manage the ups and downs. I mean, certainly there are a lot of ups, and
there are a lot of lows. Every day I go through many lows, disappointments, which you call frustrations, disappointments. But all these are not frustrations in the literal meanings. These are challenges for me. These inspire me more. I think God is testing me. He's testing my passion. He's testing my ability. He's testing my sincerity. I have to prove. One thing I always keep in mind, Qaid-e-Azam, somebody asked him that, Mr. Jinnah, you are 70 years old, but still you work hard. Your nation is not grateful to you. Your nation is, your people are divided, but still you are working for them. So Qaid-e-Azam said that, look, I am only working to hear one sentence from Allah Almighty. I know there is a day of judgment. So I am longing for a sentence uttered by Allah Almighty. I wish when I go in front of Him, He says, Mr. Jinnah, well done.
Well done.
Well done, Mr. Jinnah. He said that whatever I am doing is just to hear this sentence. Well done, Mr. Jinnah. So I am trying, that maybe I am before God and God says, well done. So this gives me plenty of energy. This takes away all kind of frustration. The more somebody opposes, the more challenged I feel that I should work on him. This is how God is testing my patience. Don't be bothered about results. Just focused on getting prepared for that ultimate moment when you will be presented before God?
I'm conscious of time and don't want to take up more, but I wanted to ask one last question, and it's a bit of a, you can say, unusual or off topic, but very much dear to my heart, which is I saw a picture of you and Abdul Sattar Idi Saab. And I was just imagining being a part of that moment, or what that conversation might have been like, or what that meeting might have been like. Or I was wondering also if you had met several times and if you had any type of relationship. He's someone who's been a real role model for me and for us at Amal. And so I was just curious what that picture was, what that moment was.
Actually, I wanted to meet him more. I wanted to spend time with him more. I have read his biography. I have read about him. I have, great inspiration from his remarkable work, a great human being. But that was a chance meeting. In fact, I went to deliver a lecture in NIPA, that is the National Institute for Public Administration. And the second speaker was Mr. Eidhi. So I didn't know that he would be there. So that was a chance meeting, and he was kind, and he put his hand on my head, and I still feel his hand on my head. Very compassionate, very loving, very caring. But that was a chance meeting. I just requested him to pray for me, and I requested him to visit Akhuwat if he finds time. But obviously he is busy. He was busy in many other things. I have no personal relationships with him as such, but I'm certainly the generation which got inspiration from people like Akhtar Hamid Khan, people like Abdul Sattar Eidhi. But unfortunately, I didn't spend much time with him. I am extremely, I appreciate his efforts, but I still think that he has not institutionalized all what he achieved. And for that, I don't blame him at all. Sometimes I think that if I don't institutionalize, I should be blamed because I'm an educated person. I have read public administration. So if I don't pass on whatever we have achieved to an institution, then I should be held guilty for that. But Abdul Sattar Eidhi cannot be held guilty of that because he was not trained as such. Whatever he was trained in, he performed par excellence. So now this is the responsibility of his hires to institutionalize what has been achieved by him. But when I, think about his movement, then I get a lesson that we should work on institutionalization as well. But obviously, Pakistan is lucky to have a person like him, so selfless and so simple. No political jargon, no development jargon, no big words, just action, just acting, and just living his thoughts. Whatever he thought, whatever he said, he lived that.
Well, I think, and one of my mentors has often said that we stand in the best situation. We stand on the shoulders of the giants that have come before us. And when I look at Akhuwat's work, it feels very much like just a continuation of that vision that Eidhi Saab had for the country and for the people within the country. And I remember Dr. Kamran introducing you years ago, and one of the things he said was that a really great person doesn't make you feel small when you're with that person. And I feel that with you, I feel that is the type of person Eidhi Saab was. And I think that the entire country, the entire world, certainly my team and certainly myself are extremely grateful for the example that you've set the life that you're living and the type of work that you're creating and inspiring for all of us to try and emulate. So thank you so much, sir.